Welcome to the Momentum Matters podcast, where we have courageous conversations with women leaders. You'll hear about their accomplishments, experiences, challenges, and best advice. If you're inspired by women who have overcome barriers and gone on to do extraordinary things, you're in the right place. I'm April Benatolo, CEO at Momentum Leaders, where we are on a mission to advance women in leadership. Now let's meet our guest. Okay, well, it's my pleasure to welcome you, Dr. Sharon Melnick, to the Momentum Matters podcast. We have done so many things together, but a podcast, I think, is not really one of them.
Oh my gosh, I have such a sweet spot for momentum, and I'm so inspired by your expansion and impact.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, it's been very inspired by your work. So let's get into it. I wanted to start out. I'm very familiar with your work and your credentials and the books you've written and your training, but I wanted to back up a little bit from there and share with our general audience a little bit about Sharon Melnick, Dr. Sharon Melnick. How did you come to decide to study psychology? And more specifically, how did you come to decide to study stress, resilience, power, and focus so much on women?
Yeah. So many ways of answering that. Thank you. So, one thing is that when I was growing up, I was very well cared for materially, and I felt loved, but I didn't really feel seen emotionally. I didn't really feel kind of, understood in that way. And for some reason, I always had a knowing that that was like the most important thing, that children need to be empathized with in order to grow. They needed that emotional oxygen in addition to the physical oxygen. So in that way, I think it was the early roots of me kind of thinking that like I was going to grow up to become a psychologist. And when I was queen for the day, then that was going to be the ability that I was going to grant to everyone. And now I'm devoting my life to that. Then I actually became a clinical psychologist, and in my postdoctoral research at Harvard Medical School, I did research on intergenerational issues. So, what you bring with you from your own childhood into your parenting in the next generation. And with a specific focus on people who had had difficult or traumatic childhoods, I helped to understand and brought them methods that would help them to avoid repeating those mistakes or kind of break those intergenerational cycles. And there were some things that I learned about, what really kind of causes, that pattern to continue, or for us to bring it into the rest of our lives, in our relationships, in our work lives, into our society. And it's actually very relevant to what it is that we're going to be talking about today, in terms of being in your power, because I think the main dynamic of a traumatic situation, and I'm going to talk very broadly here, okay? Because there's too many people, too many of us who have experienced kind of what we call like big T traumas, where it was frankly abusive or assaultive or neglectful in some way, or even people who have a one-time event like a car accident. So we talk about trauma and PTSD, but I think many of everyone, 100% of us have experienced as well, too many experiences in which the fundamental dynamic in such a situation is that you feel powerless. You feel like you can't kind of take care of your emotional well-being or your physical well-being. How you are being treated or interacting, or resources available to you or opportunities available to you feel out of your control. And I think many people these days, we feel powerless in some areas of our lives, right? So it could be that you're a talented woman and you don't feel seen or valued. You feel dismissed or unheard or overlooked or uncredited, right? For your contributions. It could be that you are a senior leader in your organization and you just don't feel like the young people kind of get it, or there's someone on your team who you've tried to pour yourself into them, but they just aren't, kind of living up to your expectations. It could be somewhere in your personal life, with your kids, with your family of origin, with your spouse or dating situation. And when that happens, we feel out of our power, right? And we can get into kind of like a mental swirl, like, you shouldn't be doing that, or why are you doing that, or I wouldn't do that. You get emotionally hijacked, you feel blaming and resentful or disappointed. And but the point is that you feel out of your power. And I just feel like a lot of people these days, we feel stuck. You know what I mean? Should I stay? Should I go? Should I be in the relationship? Should I leave? Etc. And what I'd love to offer as a way of thinking about this is that when you're in these situations where you don't feel like you can control, you go through your day, and the experience is like you're a thermometer. And what I mean by that is like your mental and emotional state is kind of like going up and down throughout the day. And it seems as if other people act and you only react. It can feel like you're more the casualty than the creator of your experience.
Mm,
And really, what we're here to do in this podcast, and what was my aim in the book, In Your Power, was to help you shift from being the thermometer to being the thermostat. And
mm.
when you're the thermostat, you set the tone. You decide who you are and who you will show up as and how you believe about yourself. You have a vision of how this whole situation or interaction could be better, and you're able to bring people along in your vision. You see, the thermostat, if you even just like think about the actual thing, it takes into account all of the elements in the situation: the temperature, the airflow, the humidity, the movement of the people, and it harmonizes all of these elements into a designated temperature, right? And when you are the thermostat, you have a lot more control. You are in your power.
I
And
love
that's
that metaphor. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and that's like the, first message that I want you all to really appreciate is you have more power than you think. And I think what's really contributing to an experience of women in the workplace, in our world, is that when we're not in our power, the way that we try to make situations better makes it worse. Or even if it doesn't, do anything, if you're like, well, I said something, but nothing changed, or, I tried, or, or I'm just avoiding it or whatever, but that's actually just making everyone kind of more entrenched in the situation. You're more blaming, you're more hopeless. And that way, it's just making it worse. But the moment you step into your power, you shift the power dynamic. And that's really what I came to understand, I think, by that early understanding of trauma is there's that experience where you don't feel like you have a voice. You don't feel like you can advocate for yourself. You don't have the experience that the world is safe or as it should be, or that you are able to uh, put your talents into kind of an outcome and make the contribution that you are here to make. And so long way of coming back around to sort of say, I think I kind of understood those dynamics from my early research, and now I kind of see it in our everyday life. And as a leader, you have an opportunity to be in your power, and when you're in your power, you raise everyone around you.
So I want to pause there because I want to come back to that, Sharon. Now, you are considered a global authority on leadership, confidence, and resilience. And I know that you have trained over 40,000 professionals, including a lot of momentum women, in top companies all over the country. And you speak around the world on these topics. So having that broad view and all of that you have seen and that you have experienced, can you share with us a little bit why you think women in particular have an issue with power? Because when I read that, a leader in their power raises everyone around them, and being in your power is the ultimate act of service. I read that and I thought, I know a lot of women who are going to resist that statement, that are going to see power as being something they are either not entitled to have or that feels bad on them.
Yeah, you totally get it. And I think we're here to redefine power. Because when we think about power now, it has a negative idea for us, right? It's selfish, it's manipulative, it's narcissistic, it's forceful, it's
Yeah.
abusive, because we've all been on the receiving end, right? In many ways, as women. So, but that's only the case when someone is in power, but not in their power. And actually, the word power comes from a Latin root, posse, which means to be able. So, in your power really means to be able. And I think it means to be able to stay good in you, no matter what's going on around you. So that by the way that you show up, you can kind of get the outcomes that you're there for and make it better for everyone around you. And so I want you all listening to appreciate that you have more power than you think. You have so much power in every situation. And what tends to happen is that we react, right? We become that thermometer. We focus on what the other person is doing or isn't doing, and we blame or we feel defeated or we take it personally, right? In all of these ways. And then we are all in that swirl of like being out of our power. And it blinds us to seeing actually that we have more power than we think. There's so much more that we could do in the situation. And like I was saying, the moment that you are in your power, you will see solutions that were not available to you before. Because when you're not in your power and you are reacting, then you're focusing on what you can't control. And then all you want is just to make it go away. Like make that person stop doing what they're doing, or just see me, just promote me, just get get my idea and buy into it and support me, which I'm sure is all very well deserved. But you focus on things that leak your power, right? And really what I want you to see is to look at every situation, kind of the whole hologram of it from a three-dimensional perspective, like what your is going on for you, what's going on for the other person, what's going on in the context, and the power that you have to connect with the other person and engage people in joint problem solving and come up with win-win solutions in the service of actually like making the situation better and making the world better or strengthening that relationship or helping to raise your child to have more of the qualities that you want in that moment. That's the ultimate power that you have. And so that's what I really see as a common thing. And so I want every one of you to actually like enjoy the power that you do have. And what's really interesting is that a colleague of mine, Ron Carucci, in the Marshall Goldsmith Top 100 community, he did a study of executives rising into of professionals rising into executive positions, and he studied power. And this is just like fascinating. What do you think the number one abuse of power was? I know where all our minds are going to go, right? I mean, some way of like hoarding power or lording it over other people. But actually, the number one abuse of power was not using it. And what all the research shows is that women use power better.
In what way?
Well, in many ways. So, first of all, we know that the new model of leadership is one that comes naturally to many women, where it's about like empathy and taking into account, kind of like for the good of all, right? So, women use power for the good of all. Also, you all may know this or be someone who contributes to this statistic, but we know that when you have more women in management, every single metric of profit dramatically increases, like
That's right.
dramatically, like literally every single metric. Safety improves, culture improves, belonging improves, decision making, embracing and being open to change. I mean, like literally
Customer
every
satisfaction,
single.
revenues, all of it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, um, and many of you are, there at work thinking in your head, like, I could do it better than that person anyway. You know what I mean? So it's like, I really want you all to get comfortable with this idea of power, like thinking of power as being in your power, having a sense of agency, having a sense of sovereignty, being effective, you know what I mean, at what it is that you do, like staying good in you so that you can like be the steward of any immovable, tension filled situation. You can be the one who's above it and kind of not just react from your own personal point of view, but rather kind of take in the whole and bring everyone along towards higher ground. You all want that kind of power. That's when a woman in her power raises everyone around her.
So, Sharon, during your career, you have, in addition to In Your Power, you have written two other books prior to that, also based on your years of research at Harvard Medical School. And so those were Success Under Stress,
Success under stress. Yep.
written, I believe, kind of in response to the recession and the stresses that women were feeling during that time. And then also Confidence When It Counts.
Yeah.
And I am curious to your opinion on whether you feel like those things build upon each other. Is there an order to which we go about the self-improvement of gaining confidence, gaining resilience, and standing in our power?
Yeah. It's such a thoughtful question. And I think they influence confidence, resilience. They all go together. And the more you have one, the more it helps you have the other. And the less you have one, the more it detracts from the other. Right. And interestingly enough, the publisher of In Your Power came to me during the pandemic and said, uh, people really need the skills that you wrote about in Success Under Stress. People have been finding that book really super helpful. Would you write a Success Under Stress 2.0? And here's what I said to them. I said, here we are 2-ish years into the pandemic, and nobody needs another book on like how to deal with stress, like take a deep breath and walk around the block, or like, these kinds of things. There's like a lot of ink that has been spilled about this. And I think people are much more kind of savvy to self-care, these kinds of things. Yes, 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 you need kind of some of these basics. But I said, the things that are really causing people stress these days is the way that we feel kind of out of control or not seen or not heard or unable to make the impact that we are here for. And I think many of us feel like things aren't the way we think they should be in our companies or in our world, broadly speaking. And I explained to them that my understanding of burnout is, I think the traditional way that we think about it is that it comes from having too much to do. Now, I know every one of you have too much to do, and it is overtaxing your nervous system, and you do need to balance your on and your off button. So, yes, in the Success Under Stress book, you can learn about that. But burnout these days isn't coming from having too much to do, but rather from too little power, from too, just that sense of like, I can't seem to create more of the culture. You know what I mean? Or I can't seem to overcome what it's like for me in a male dominated environment. Or just can't get my child to kind of like, be more in alignment with me. And this is really the fast path to burnout, right? Is this kind of sense of not being able to have control. And I said to the publisher, I said, and if you want me to write a book on that, I'm in. And they said, let's do it.
So is that what's happening?
Yeah, well, that was the In Your Power book.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Sharon, can you take us through a couple of fundamental ideas that are in the book that might be helpful as far as gaining that power? Because I think that a lot of people, and particularly women, get power and control kind of confused.
Yeah, good
And that
question.
was kind of an epiphany that I had in reading your book, was that, well, I'll let you kind of take that question
Oh,
on the
sure.
difference
Share your
between power and
epiphany. I'd love
control,
to hear.
and how do we find that energy to take our power back?
Yeah, right. Like there's all of this good life force within us, and then we can give it away. Right? So, the first thing, just where you want to get started, right, is think of a situation now that maybe is challenging for you or causing stress in some way. And what you want to do is you want to sort out or differentiate what are the aspects of the situation that you can control. I call this your 50%, and differentiate that from the aspects of the situation you can't control, the other 50%. And notice that any moment that you put your attention on the aspects of the situation that you can't control, you're just like leaking your power, just draining out of you, right? And that's so the very first thing that you want to do is you want to focus on your 50%. You literally like take out a piece of paper, draw a circle, put a line through the middle of it. What can I control? What can't I? And I want you to see that actually there's so much that you can control in every situation, even when it feels like there's nothing that you can control. And the idea is be impeccable for your 50%. Like take 100% responsibility for everything that you can control. And you will get so far toward, feeling like this situation, like you have much more detachment, that you're turning it around and you're seeing like, how might this be happening for me rather than to me? And right there, like that situation, like even there's a story in the book of a woman who I was coaching, and she comes to our call and she's really upset, and she said, that there's two other people in her group who were just promoted and she wasn't. They had been there less time than she had. And this is someone who was like, producing dashboards that are like relevant to the whole like forward momentum of the company, really like contributing important things. And she just was like devastated in the situation. I was, really like tried to hold space and be empathic. She was really upset. And as soon as I could see she was open to, kind of trying to shift her perspective, I asked her that question. I said, how do you think this might be happening for you, not to you? Let's just kind of play with that, And immediately she was like, something? I didn't even want that job. like that was like an incremental step up. And she's like, you know something? Like I'm doing the work of like a level or two above that. And really, I want to be doing these strategic enterprise wide, you know, kind of initiatives. And then we, made kind of an influencing campaign to get buy-in from some of the, C-suite to, be kind of taking on ownership of these initiatives. And, now she's in like a vice president, like huge, hugely responsible role, right? And because it was like that's what came to her, in that moment. So it's just an example. When she came on the call, she felt so done to and unseen, and gender bias and racial bias, and it just felt so icky to her. And we've all been there in
Mm,
many ways, many times a week. So that was an example of even when there was nothing that she could control, like she couldn't make that promotion, she couldn't change her manager's mind, and but she kind of reclaimed it, right? And she maximized what it was that she could control in that situation. So that would be the first thing I would say, is like just pledge to be impeccable for your 50% in any situation. And what's so interesting here, like we just have to appreciate this, is that as human beings, we are so set up to focus on what we can't control. Like we are, like literally our brains are wired to track threats and things that we can't control. It's
we're
like
obsessed with the weather, which we cannot control, interest rates, which we cannot control.
totally.
Yeah.
And it's like we got to overcome the factory settings if we want to like have the life that you want and kind of evolve as a species, you know? So that's like one place where I think it would be great to start. And even just right there is going to like just make you kind of swagger more through the day, feeling like you're controlling what you can control. And then just another thing to stay aware of, back to your point about giving away our power, is that all humans, yes, especially as women, we can give away our power. Meaning, when we have a doubt about ourselves, what we do is we look to other people, we look to information that's going on in the situation in order to know how we should be feeling about ourselves, right? And so we look to other people to validate us. We don't speak up or go for it or ask to talk with a senior executive, not wanting to quote unquote bother them, or take their time. We stay in our comfort zone and don't go for it. We just go around in our mind focusing on how we're not good enough, and the people around us are not good enough, and put a lot of pressure there. And so all of these are ways that we put our attention on, we kind of involve other people and we act toward them in a way in order to get them to act toward, like back toward us, give us that compliment,
Mm,
not give us negative feedback. You know what I mean? Or hire us, all these kinds of things. And we do these things in order to try to get that knowing inside of us, right? And then all of our energy and attention is going towards managing other people's perceptions, right? And it's not going into the good work that you are here for. And
sure.
so, for anybody who feels exhausted, anybody who is kind of resentful that other people aren't giving them what it is that they need, maybe because you kind of set them up to give them all the power, you know what I mean, about how you feel about yourself, or to put your career trajectory in their hands. Anybody who is really pressuring themselves to be perfect, and kind of not allowing them to lift up and be strategic and really enjoy the work. All of these are examples of where you're kind of giving your power away, and
Yeah.
all your energy and attention going out toward other people, and not you're kind of not sourcing that confidence from within. And this is really relevant for leaders, because if you're a leader and you're focused on your personalized concerns in the moment, and if I say this, what are people going to think? Or if I make
Yeah,
this call,
right.
what are people going to think? You are kind of not using the power that you have for good. And
Sure.
as a leader, you want to think about your vision and your legacy and what you're here for. And you want to act in the service of that, in the service of the intention of who you want to be. And then all of your energy going toward forwarding your life, creating the culture and the impact that you are here for. And then you are a woman in her power who raises everyone around her.
Oh, I love that so much. I love it. Sharon, we are about out of time, but I want to leave people with all of the ways in which they can learn more and gain more from your expertise and your insights. So, would you mind? And we will put this in the show notes as well, for our YouTube channel and on the podcast. But if you would just share with people the different ways that they can, either individually or through their companies, engage with Dr. Sharon Melnick's work.
Thank you so much. DrSharonMelnick.com, DR, then SharonMelnick.com is a great place to find out about speaking and about individual coaching and women's leadership development programs. I'd love to connect with you there. And also, you definitely want to get your hands on the In Your Power book and really read it with your whole team, bring it into your women's leadership network, and actually just like read along with your besties. And is really because this is a book about being in your power. And when you love someone, you want them to be in their power. And you can actually download some free resources. I mean, get the book at any place that you get books,
Yeah,
online, Amazon or any of those places. And also, I have some special resources for you that can be found at inyourpowerbook.com, inyourpowerbook.com. And if I could just tease one of the resources that are there. I mean,
sure.
there's really like a bunch of them that you'll
Yeah.
find throughout the book, but one of the things that uh, I think is you really want to know in order to stay in your power is that I know being a woman in this world, like it is an angering experience. Like we are angry, we are frustrated, and you do not want to keep that in your body. Like that lets them win. You know what I mean? And you don't want to internalize all that and have that causing you disease processes or you to get sick or just to be in a blah kind of state. And many of us feel bogged down. We feel like there's no way to express that frustration and that anger, and we're kind of like an encaged tiger. So you really want to get it out. So one of the things that I have as a kind of like an extra resource for you at inyourpowerbook.com is that you really want to do a rage dance break. Yeah. And the best way to
Love
do
it.
this is like, in sisterhood. So like do this, and we're going to do this when I come to Momentum. We're going to do a rage dance break. Now I do this when I speak virtually as well. And so I have a playlist for you
Oh,
of
wow.
rage dance break songs and also songs for grief and disappointment, because I know you face that too. And the rule is that after you do a rage dance break or like a griefy, disappointed dance break, you always have to like turn it on afterwards. So I also have playlists for like fun, dancey kind of songs, or even like kind of like sultry, sexy kind of songs, because you want to move the emotions through your body and come back into remembering who you are and the
Mm,
magnificence of who you are as a woman and a leader and all the relationship roles that you play in your life, uh, so that you can be in your power and raise everyone around you. So head over
fantastic.
inyourpowerbook.com, get your hands on those playlists. Oh, I can't wait. And I actually hold these dance breaks we can do it in sisterhood. So when you go and sign up there, then you'll be notified of when I do our next sisterhood rage dance break.
Fantastic. We have at Momentum in our office, when we get overwhelmed or we've just been heads down for too long, we have one of those big, like easy buttons,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a 30-second dance party.
Fantastic. That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
We all jump up and we just start moving. The only problem with our 30-second dance party is it's like the same four songs, right? The same four pieces of music. So I can't wait to get my hands on the playlist. That'll be fun.
Oh, yeah. And
Well,
let's
Sharon,
crowdsource it
thank
together.
you. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I cannot wait to see you next time you are down for training one of our classes that's coming up. So we're super excited about that. And no doubt that we will be speaking with you sometime on this podcast again.
Thank you so much, April. It's really such a delight always.
Super. Thank you for listening to our show today. We invite you to subscribe to Momentum Matters so you never miss an episode. And we'd be so grateful if you would leave us a rating and a review to help others learn about our show. Momentum Matters is produced in partnership with Social U. Many thanks to our sponsor companies, including America's Thrift Stores, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Alabama, Protective Life, and Regions Bank. A full list of Momentum sponsors is online at momentumleaders.org/sponsors. Beyond this podcast, we have a lot of ways to get more momentum in your life. Check out the show notes for links and resources. That's all for this episode. See you next time on Momentum Matters.